views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are the content creator's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Essex County College. The material and information presented here is for entertainment and informative purposes only. It should not be considered as professional advice or a substitute for seeking professional guidance.
The following episode of the LONER is intended for mature audiences only. So if you're uncomfortable with this topic, please skip right away. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey, what's good, Jon Inahuazo once again, and welcome back to yet another episode of the LONER. And this time I'm a bit exhausted because I just came out of a dull experience of a club. Basically, I was just doing nothing. We were just coming up with ideas, but I only heard from Group 1 and Group 2. Group 2, I wasn't there, but I just decided not to participate because I didn't have a reason to. I think she did set for me to go ahead and join the Discord, but they just both teams already ended their calls, and so I don't really see a reason. And also, nobody's already there. But by the time we're recording this right now, no one is there. So yeah, so it really is what it is. I'm already looking at some emails right now. But in the meantime, I just want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the Super Bowl because I am aware of the Super Bowl, but it's just that I didn't even know that there was going to be a Super Bowl this year, even though I should expect it. But this time, what I did expect it is just it's basically the halftime show. Apparently, Donald Trump just said some controversial statements that he didn't really like the show, he hated the show, and then there was also just how it disrespected the country and all that. Like, it really is what it is. Or I wouldn't say it is what it is, it's just whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't truly understand Spanish, it's not just, this isn't really about, you had 7 months or you had 6 months to understand how to speak Spanish or how to understand Spanish and reggaeton. But at the end of the day, if you wanted some captions, if you wanted some subtitles, then yes, that probably would have been understandable. Maybe that's what you could have had, but it really is what it is. But then preferably, like, would you really watch an anime without any subtitles, or would you watch an anime with dubs? That I probably would want to know, but I don't know. If it were to be me, then probably I would be watching anime, but with the original audio. So yes, I may not understand the Japanese language, but at least I have the subtitles at least I have the English subtitles or the captions. So either way, I prefer the original audio over dub. That's just my opinion. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on into today's topic, where I want to go ahead and say something more controversial about women. Or about women. I said women. But anyways. Alright, so let's start up with something more innocent. So one day you have your daughter, and you may think that she's innocent and all because of the clothing. But then imagine if one day she decides to go on the internet, and then there's also, let's say that she's on the internet, and then apparently she gets influenced by the celebrities, the award shows, and then we have the mini dresses, we have the skirts, we have whatever type of dresses that they wear. There's even gowns. Gowns, of course, I already know much about it, but then there's also the high heels. Sometimes you may see them open-toed, sometimes you may not see them at all. One of the things I don't really like about this whole show is basically when Addison Rae just had her own dress. I mean, what I'm saying is, most people call the diaper, and sometimes it's not really about diapers. Sometimes I think it may just be a leotard and not underwear, as most people would think. Sometimes that's another thing that's another thing I need to understand. Like, how come it's okay for someone to watch someone's underwear in public? And that's one thing I need to be concerned about. Like, whenever I go on Instagram, there's going to be girls who's going to do some sexually explicit stuff online. That sometimes they're either in a miniskirt or sometimes in the skirt, like whichever clothing they're in, somehow they're going to do something provocative. So as in, they can take their underwear off, and then like things can, I don't know. I just say it's disgusting for me to watch that. I think it's gross. I don't understand why they do it. I don't want to associate with these females, or at least associate with the women behind Instagram. And that's also because of the word that you already know of. And if you don't know by that, I guess you can say if you don't know it, I probably shouldn't be saying it because this is a show, and of course I have to follow the college's guidelines. So I can't be saying the W word, if you know what I mean. And if you are an adult, then you probably know what I mean. But I guess that's where I want to go ahead and transition from predatory behavior, because I feel like pedophilia is one of the biggest issues within America. Like, say that you have a woman, say that you have women who's just doing innocent things. That's right, and that's where the girl with the less provocative clothing comes from. But what if someone? But what if that one girl or that one teenage girl gets influenced by the internet to where they want to go ahead and wear something less provocative, and so that's when we realize some of these girls prefer to be half naked, as in they're okay to wear. They're really okay to be wearing crop tops. I mean, that I can say. Nowadays, I would say it's tolerable, even though I think sometimes I feel like their shirts are way too short. I wouldn't say too short, but I feel like maybe I may think that their shirts are, they bought the wrong size. But intentionally, not intentionally, I think the whole design is intentional. It's supposed to go in and reveal their mid ribs. It's supposed to show their bellies. So that I would say it's tolerable, even though I don't really want to see it all the time. But that's on me. But then when it really comes to the clothing, when it comes to the bottoms, that's when I would say it's more questionable. Like, here's the thing: like, the shorter their clothing gets, then the most provocative it gets, the most it gets predatory. The most it gets, I don't know. The most it becomes more predatory. It starts to become, men starts to evolve into perverted behavior, to where we all know the word upskirts. That's one of the things that I have to go ahead and talk to you about, because we already know it's never okay to. It's not really okay to do anything at all. But I don't want to go ahead and just mention about that just too abruptly, because then that's going to ruin the pacing. So let me go ahead and just go back for a little bit before I mention before I just mention that word. Now, I think you may have already heard of that word, because I've just brought it up. Sometimes when you hear that word, it's just basically either you're going to see something more explicit from their backs, or you're going to see what's underneath. So if you ever want to know what's inside of her skirt, what's inside of her dress, I don't think you need to answer that question, because it can get more it just makes you pervert. And what makes you a pervert is when you're not really respecting their boundaries, you're not really respecting their behavior. But at the end of the day, I think that's one thing I would probably say. Because if you're ever going to see an underage girl with some clothing that's not even meant for them, then we already know they're going to be promoting themselves for the wrong reasons. So it's one thing I would probably say. Just try to respect their boundaries, but also their parents. As for the parents, they need to really do better with their daughters. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but here's the thing. Like, hear me out. Here's the thing. Like, if you allow someone, like, say that a 7-year-old is going to be wearing something more, like, I don't know. Let's say that that for prom you're going to be wearing a dress. I'll be okay with it as long as it's not too short not too short, not too above. Like, mid thigh, I think is the most creepiest way to say it's going to turn something more sinister. It's going to turn into a sin, to where you may not even know your innocence. I feel like you're easily going to lose innocence the more you see girls in short skirts, the more you see them in mini dresses, it just becomes perverted. The same thing can go for like any anime, because here's the thing: I don't really think Mr. Out will probably allow them to watch some provocative anime or even some explicit anime, mostly because maybe he may know, maybe he may notice, maybe he may not. But it's just from what I know. It's just from my personal experiences. So don't even ask, how do I know? Because it could only get darker. But thankfully, I'm not supporting DeviantArt. I'm not supporting Pornhub. I'm not really supporting anyone who's going to be making adult content. Because as long as I remember last time I said I was never going to date an underage girl. I wasn't going to date anyone above my age. At least under my age, I probably wouldn't be dating them. And I think it's for a good reason. Like, again, say that you have a woman, but eventually you find out that even though she's wearing some less of a modest clothes, like, let's say that if her clothes are less modest and yet it's just a girl, an underage girl, like 15, 14 years old, and you're 17, you're 18, then actually I don't even know where I'm going with this. Come to think of it, I'm already recording this as around 9 minutes or so. Probably by the time this is edited and posted, it's probably going to be 10. Okay, but again, I feel like if you are going to date someone, then just don't try to date an underage girl, because sometimes they may see you as a predator, and sometimes they may try to insult you to where you have to reconsider. You have to reconsider your own decisions behind dating. And also just one of the reasons why I don't really tend to date anyone or tend to conversate with women. But then again, this isn't about me saying I don't like women, because even then, if this were to be the argument, then I could get canceled. But thankfully, I am supporting women. I do respect them. But again, if it comes at a cost of being disrespectful behind men, like say that you're going to be a woman just doing the whole podcast. And thankfully, Samantha isn't one of them. She just does interviews and she just does what she does. So that I'm going to exclude her from this conversation. But let's say that there's going to be any toxic women like a Karen. Karen, I think that's an outdated meme. So it's like, just take any women. If she's going to say something, if she's going to promote hate speech on the internet, then you know that's a red flag. That's one thing I will probably say. So say that a male is going to say something stupid, or at least say something that you shouldn't say something that you shouldn't be saying to a woman online, and then in response, a woman tries to say something bad to a male. It's not really going to start a relationship. It's just only going to start an issue, and then it's also going to start drama as well. So the more dramas you get involved in, then your own personality, I feel like, is going to end up being problematic. That's just one thing I would like to say. So at the end of the day, if you ever go to an award show, just don't try to go ahead and try to be half naked. So if you ever see someone with a crop top, in that case, not even a crop top, if you ever see them with just a bra and whatever bottoms they wear in, then you know they're unfinished. I just know they look unfinished, and they just need. And I would probably say that they need to finish. Actually, I wouldn't be saying anything. I feel like they just need to finish dressing up instead of just coming up on stage half naked. That's where I would say if you show more shoulders, if there's more legs than shoulders and clothing than fabric, then I just see them as sex appeals. And I think I would probably say that I would probably just say that because actually I don't even know much about feminism, so I shouldn't be saying anything, even though I'm just trying to make my point, even though actually I don't even know where I'm going with this. So never mind on that. But thankfully at college, and thankfully from the women I met, and at least from the staff, from the students I met, I have never experienced that issue. So thankfully I have that. But at the end of the day, I still need to learn my boundaries. I have to make my own boundaries. Most people already know that. Most people already know about sexual harassment. That's one thing we should never tolerate with. So at the end of the day, if you ever see someone with a mini skirt, just don't even say anything. Just try to move on without knowing what's inside of them. Because if you do, then you do. But then again, that would only cost. Then again, that's probably going to end up having. Actually, let's just say you're only going to end up getting in trouble with yourself. So that's one of the reasons why in public spaces, just try not to wear something less modest. So just word advice: if you don't want to get yourself in jail, then just don't take photos of girls. Just don't take underage girls either. Don't take their numbers. Just try not to take their pictures of underage girls, because that could probably be predatory. That's just one thing I have to also say as well. Anyways, I'm already feeling a bit tired, so I guess we'll move on. Right, try to go ahead and try to finish this episode up. So with that in mind, if I don't want to date underage girls because I'm 20 years old, who should I be dating? Maybe at the end of the day, I shouldn't be dating anyone. So probably it's going to be no one. And that's only unless if I can find someone who I can trust, someone who's smart, but also someone who can tolerate life, but not at the cost of just doing some stupid crap behind the mic, or at least behind me. So say that if you want to go ahead and talk smack to me on the mic, if you want to talk smack on me behind, then I'm not able to do anything with you. But that's all I can really say with them. That's just only one of the reasons why I would say, even if I want to go ahead and learn how to take my boundaries, I also have to go ahead and respect them. So either way, I'm not saying that you should stop wearing short skirts. You shouldn't stop wearing anything that you think it's comfortable. But as long as we understand ourselves better, then maybe we can try to slowly improve instead of just accusing men that they're perverts. Because if that's the case, then we're not going to be learning anything. So that's all I can really say. And that's the same thing can go for middle school. Like if you're just going to, if as a parent, if you're going to allow your daughter to go ahead and try to wear the shortest dress, then you already know somehow in some way she's going to be on camera and for the wrong reasons. If you don't want to get involved in that, then parents just need to do better with themselves. And with that being said, I guess we'll move on to the last topic, which is about Valentine's Day. Because the thing is, when it really comes to love, there's always going to be drama. So say that you have a love letter, but they don't like you back. But they don't like you back. I don't really see the point. Why would you ever find a girl who's pretty enough to date you, but only to realize that they're underage? So you end up being obese, and then you end up dating a fictional character. That's just another way of being predatory. Because that's one thing I will never do in public. And that's one thing I will never do in the future. Like, if you're going to be an adult, it's fine. It's fine to love a cartoon, but if you love a fictional character, just try not to date them. Don't try to say, oh, I want to marry this fictional character because she's underage. Who knows? Because I feel like that's one of the main reasons why I don't get involved in DeviantArt, or I don't really get involved in the fandom. So I'm just going to see myself as a casual viewer. I don't even know what I just said. But either way, that's just one thing I would like to go ahead and say. So at the end of the day, if I ever stop my addiction, then maybe life can get better. But that's only going to be the first step of pursuing happiness, of at least finding my pursuit of happiness. But unfortunately with clubs, that's not really good. That's not one of them. And speaking of which, I think I remember Jerry asking me if the podcast club was worth joining. I did give him a response, but I want to go ahead and say something more on this mic, or at least on this show. I want to go ahead and talk more about that. I feel like with the podcast club, sometimes it is worth your time joining here if you know what you're doing. But say that you have something controversial to say, you just have to make sure that it's not going to fully break the guidelines. But as long as you're able to push your boundaries in, don't try to go ahead and just make your whole script too safe. But don't try to also just try not to use profanity as much as you can. Even though sometimes I will be using profanities, not all the time I will be using it. Not every hour I will be doing it. So either way, I'm just trying to improve myself. I'm just trying to get better at life. Maybe that's one thing I'm trying to say. And I guess one thing that I should never do in the future is just join a club and then just see and see what happens in there. I'm probably going to keep myself and just admit that I'm still straight. I'm not really looking for anyone who wants me, but either way, I'm fine being single, and I think that's the lesson of today's episode. I think it's okay to be single because at the end of the day, it's love. If you think love is complicated, then there's just no point for you to continue on and find someone who loves you. But at the end of the day, if you know yourself better than your woman, then just don't try to date. And if you ever want to date someone, then just at least try to build your boundaries, but also try to understand what the woman wants. Just try to understand what your boyfriend wants. Just try to understand what your girlfriend wants. That's one thing I'm going to say. But if neither of you can communicate, then I just don't see the reason why we need to be dating. And the same thing can go for the high school couple. So thankfully, here in college, I will not be starting a couple. Neither in university. At least once I go to college again. Or if not, maybe I'll probably will remain single with my brother, and then we're all going to be insufferable. So that's one thing I will probably say. Anyways, I feel a bit tired. Like, as I said already, I feel a bit tired, and I don't even want to go home, but I have to, and I have to do my homework, but it really is what it is. But that's going to be about it. So from all of us here, at least from me only, I would like to shout out to everyone, and If you have a supportive girlfriend, then happy Valentine's Day, and if you're a male, then happy Valentine's Day. But if you don't celebrate any of these holidays, then we are fine, because at the end of the day, the most important thing we know is Black History Month, and I will be making a documentary exclusive to the classroom, at least for the audio production one. Otherwise, I think I said what I already said. So unless if you can find love, I just don't really think love is going to exist anymore. Because if there's miscommunication all the time, there's just no reason to date someone. If a girl's going to be underage and you're a male, you think that if you think that she's 20 years old only to tell you that she's 15, that's problematic. If there's more women who's going to promote themselves as attention seekers and even study the actually just study the problematic parts of pornography, then we know we're gonna have a problem. So that's one thing we should never watch at all. So don't go. So at the end of the day, if you're a student, if you're just don't go to Rule 34. That's what I'm gonna say. Don't go to Rule 34. It's going to ruin your life. End of story. Anyways, if you're here and you're still here listening to me, then yeah, I'm not going to make a whole apology video out of it, but I feel like I need to say it again that I respect women, but I'm not going to respect anyone who's going to be inappropriate or who's going to be sexually explicit on the internet. So that's all I can really say. So yes, next week I was gonna do an episode next week, but I just realized I don't even feel like I don't know about you, but I felt like I haven't felt like doing another episode, unfortunately. And I'm just only here because I own you guys a new episode. But I promised you I was gonna go ahead and do a bi-weekly series, but here I am again because I got delayed because of the snowstorm. So I had to give you guys that episode to I had to push that episode to next week. And then the next episode was going to be about a generic episode, but I don't even know when that's at. That I could record in one take, but that's going to depend if I feel like recording another one, either tomorrow or the same week or the following week after this episode. But I don't know. But hopefully 9 episodes is enough for me hopefully 9 episodes is enough for me to continue living without trying to say, oh, I should probably make some daily content and then suffer from burnout. But yeah, that's another thing I would probably say. So if you are someone who cares about me, if you care about someone's mental health like I am, I would not try to go ahead and date a sociopath either. So that's all I can really say. I'm not here to make some. I'm not here for a relationship. I'm not going to be the right person to give you some relationship advices, but at least I would probably tell you to stay away from pedophilia because otherwise you can get yourself in trouble, and you'll probably end up being in prison. And we probably know what's going to happen afterwards. Sexual allegations may happen. So that's one thing I will never want to do. That's one thing that I would never want to do once I grow up from college, or at least once I grow up from 21, and then afterwards, I do not want to be associated with underage girls. So if you're 15, you're 16, you're 17, I do not want to talk to you. If you do want to talk, if you ever want to talk to me, just try not to go ahead and do something more flirty. Just try not to flirt with someone. Try not to do just try not to do anything that's considered inappropriate in public spaces, because otherwise you can also get yourself in trouble. And that's another thing I just realized now. I just remembered something, because for some reason these attention seekers also decide maybe it's a good idea to show your underwear on camera, like say a Zoom meeting. So you have an important meeting, but then for some reason as the woman's about to leave, she flashes her underwear. No idea why. It's like you can't be you gotta be just stupid enough to understand you need to wear something underneath. And just by that she got fired. And then there's the fake letters that, oh, you did something horrible, so we're gonna fire you. That I would say just don't listen to them. They're just here for attention. They're just here to promote their content that you shouldn't be watching now. You shouldn't be watching it anyway. So that being said, I think that's one thing I will say. So as I said already, and I'm going to say it the third time, I will respect women as long as they're not doing anything inappropriate. So if you know who you are, then you know who you are. If you're comfortable with what you're wearing, that's fine. Just don't show your underwear. don't show your private parts on camera. Just don't do anything that can be considered as sexually attractive or just sexually perverted. I don't know. Hopefully this message is making sense, because if it does, then I might try to scrap this episode, even though I'm just trying. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying. That's all I'm doing. Anyways, I'm done. So thank you guys again for listening, and I will catch you guys whenever I feel like doing another episode. And instead of from and look, one more thing before I go, and it has nothing to do with girls anymore. It is something it's about the bus. Look, I'm about to go in and leave right now, and then what happens next? Like, this stupid bus is not going to come in. Like, the only thing that's going to come in is the 21, or that's it. 21, 34, 34P, 34, whatever. It could be one as well. I will never see bus 34S, and that's what I need. That's the bus that I need to go so I can go home. So if I decide I'm gonna go ahead and wait there for half an hour, for 30 minutes, an hour, I'm never gonna make it at home. So I might as well just stay here at home, stay here in college for a little while. And also, I also don't want to deal with my brother just complaining about me, complaining about life. And also, yes, I'm also the type of person who often loses some things, which involves computers, which involves AirPods, keys. So I don't really want to get involved in that. So if you see me right now, I'm probably just going to be doing some homework right now. But in the meantime, I think I'm done. So thank you guys again for listening, and I would like to apologize if this episode's way too controversial that I may not even make it on YouTube. So sorry, editor. But until then, next time, I will catch you guys next week, or at least whenever I feel like doing another episode. And maybe I'll try to do a retrospective one. So hopefully, if you're interested in that, then I'll catch you guys in there. And yeah, if you have a club, then always try to participate the best when you can. But just, I don't know. I'm done. This lesson is just forced. Anyways, I'm done. So again, hope from all of us here, happy Valentine's Day, and I will catch you. And hopefully you respect your women. Hopefully you respect your boundaries. Hopefully you better understand yourselves that it's never okay to exploit women, because that's the main point. So again, do not tell them that you saw something more, that you saw their private parts, because then they'll probably just tell you you're harassing them. Either way, my brother harasses me anyway sometimes, so I shouldn't be saying anything. I probably will be going to therapy afterwards. If I ever go to therapy, that's fine. That's one thing that I need to do, but I know it's not going to be the permanent solution to life. All right, I'm done. So until then, I will catch you guys whenever I feel like doing another episode. I will always be here. So if you have any questions or comments, if you have any ideas, then drop them down in the comments. But I'm done.
This has been a production of the Essex County College Podcast Club. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.